About a year ago, I did a lesson, Essential Banjo Backup Rolls. It was 2-measure roll patterns. And I thought I'd sort of revisit that lesson. I'm not exactly doing the same thing, but I'm going to include tablature this time, and I'll have a few different thoughts about it. But that was Dominic and I just playing Your Love is Like a Flower. We played that in the key of B. And what I want to talk about is banjo backup on this lesson. And so I'm going to show you how I played the banjo backup for what I just played along with Dominic in Your Love is Like a Flower. Now I was playing in the key of B. I have since taken the capo off. We're going to be playing in the key of G just to make it easier. And what I'm going to start with is just some very basic 2-measure rolls, and then we're going to add the embellishments to make it sound a little more like bluegrass banjo backup that you might hear a professional play. So let's just start with the 2-measure backup rolls. So it's going to sound like this. Okay, so that's that 2-measure roll pattern that I talked about in that previous lesson. And the idea is it's a forward roll, but it's played across 2 measures. And we're simply going through the Your Love is Like a Flower chord progression. So that's 2 measures of G, 2 measures of C, 2 measures of D, 2 measures of G, 2 measures of C, 2 measures of G, 2 measures of D, and then it kind of recycles through. And I've got the tab below, so you'll be able to see exactly what I was doing. Okay, but that's not very interesting. That's not what the pros are playing. So what is it? What does it sound like? What would J.D. Crowe or one of those or Terry Baucom or one of those classic bluegrass banjo players, what would they be playing? And they'd be adding embellishments, okay? So this is what I played in the opening with Dominic. Okay, so I'm taking that basic 2-measure roll pattern, 2 measures of G, forward roll, but I'm adding some embellishments. So what am I doing in the G there for the 2 measures of G? I'm adding a 2 to 5 slide. And I'll do it 2 ways. Sometimes I like to pinch right at the beginning. Other times I will play just a forward roll beginning on the G string. And it's just a really fun sound to have that 2 to 5 slide there. And you'll hear that a lot in professional backup. So then what do we want to do though? We want to lead the listener's ear to the next chord, which is a C chord or a 4 chord. So what I would do then is I add in this little passing note. Okay, so we had that 2-5 slide, that was the first measure, but then we added a mixed roll where we're grabbing this F note, which helps lead into, we're grabbing this, and then this is just a little passing note leading to the C. That's kind of what it would sound like if I weren't playing in a roll, but we played as a roll. That would be a more chromatic version of it. Okay, so here it is, one more time. Okay, and then the C is actually pretty straightforward. We just play a 2-measure roll pattern, and I do start with a forward roll and I end with a reverse roll. Okay, and then we're right back to the G. Okay, so instead of playing 2 measures of G with a forward roll, we play 1 measure of G, but then we do a series of passing notes that lead to the D note, right? And the D is that open D string, so that's where we're going. That walk down is leading to the D, and so again, that triggers in the listener's ear that, okay, we're moving to a new chord, and it kind of tells them where we're going, and it tells our bandmates where we're going. So. Okay, and then I'm just playing 2 measures of D. Now, 2 measures of D, you can substitute a lot of different backup rolls. Sometimes I'll do something more like this. But here, for simplicity's sake, I'm just doing a forward reverse roll. And then we're back to G. All right, so then we're doing 2 measures of G, similar to what we did before. Okay, there you might have noticed I did it slightly different. The first time I went through, I played it like this. I was grabbing that F note. I was playing a mixed roll, grabbing the F note. Whereas here, I added a pinch. It just changed the rhythm a little. I didn't include that F note, but then it was that same passing note. So one more time. Okay, then we did the same thing here. 2 measures of C. Okay, and then we're just finishing it out. We had 1 measure of G there, and then 1 measure of D. One more time. And again, we could do a lot of different things at the end of a verse there, or at the end of somebody else's break. We could do. That's a classic Scruggs lick. Often it's played over the D chord, but it can work over both a 1 measure of G and 1 measure of D. So that's that. So again, you can play that if there's 2 measures of D, or you can play it across a G chord. There's nothing that would conflict there. The D note is in a G chord, so you can play that. But again, there's a lot of different things. I wanted to just give you an idea of how to play a sort of professional style backup that includes some embellishments, and I wanted to give you the tab. So the tablature is there down below. Now, I think before we go, let me give you one other thought. So that was a Your Love Is Like a Flower chord progression, right? G, C, G, D, and then it kind of repeats on the second half. What if we do a Blue Ridge Cabin Home chord progression where we've got 2 measures of G, 2 measures of C, but instead of going back to G, we go to D, right? 2 measures of G, 2 measures of C, 2 measures of D, and then it kind of repeats. So I didn't plan this out, but I thought, let me just give you a Blue Ridge Cabin Home backup banjo and see what that would sound like in the first position. Okay, so there it is. That was G, C, and D, but I'll just break it down a little for you there. So I started in the same way. Sorry. All the same. Now there we changed. Instead of going back to G, I just. Okay, and then I added, so I just, I went from C to the D, and then I'm going to add a G lick here. And then let's end with that 2 measure D lick. Okay, and that's it. G, C, and D. And so the idea is, I mean, once you've mastered these 2-measure roll patterns, then you can, of course, substitute lots of different licks in there where they're appropriate. But a lot of times what those great banjo backup players are doing is they're just rolling along in G. And then when it comes time to change chords, they're often adding a passing note of some sort. Right, going to C, or walking down to D. And if there's a little space, they might add a lick. But that's really a lot of what they're doing, and you'll just keep hearing that sound though. That 2-5 slide is just fundamental. It's really it's a great sound. So that was the lesson this week. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for tuning in.